The jungle holds its breath beneath a star-strewn sky. In the darkness, a stone pyramid waits. The ancient Maya built a civilization of breathtaking genius, mastering the stars and mathematics, raising cities from the rainforest. But their world had a shadow, a deep and spiritual darkness where breathtaking achievement met profound terror. To understand their brilliance, we must also step into that shadow. By the end, you will know the true cost of maintaining their universe, a price paid in rituals that defy modern understanding. What drove a people of such intellect to practices we would call horrifying? How far would you go to keep the sun rising? The answers lie in the heart of their belief, where blood was a sacred currency and the gods were always listening. What does it truly mean to hold a world together? Their world was not a gift but a loan. The very ground they walked on, the air they breathed, and the sun that warmed their cities all came with a terrifying condition. To the Maya, existence itself was a sacred substance called Cayuhol, a shimmering life force that animated everything from a king to a cornstalk. But this force was not infinite and it was not free. Their creation stories spoke of a time when the gods, in their loneliness, decided to fashion beings who could praise them. Their first attempts, made of mud and wood, failed. So the gods did the unthinkable. They gathered in the primordial darkness and performed the ultimate act of creation. They shed their own blood. From this divine sacrifice mixed with maize dough, humanity was finally born. We were literally made from the gods' essence, and from that moment we inherited a cosmic debt, a Chaac or soul debt, that could never be fully repaid, only endlessly serviced. The currency for this debt was the same substance that created us, Chaac, blood. This was not a metaphor. It was a physical, urgent, and daily reality, especially for those at the very top. The king, the Holy Lord, was the conduit between the human realm and the divine. His body was not his own, it was the axis of the world. To pay the debt and maintain the flow of Cayuhol, he had to make a personal offering. This was the practice of auto-sacrifice. Imagine the scene in a private chamber atop the palace, the air thick with copal incense. The king, adorned in heavy jade and quetzal feathers, prepares for the most intimate duty of his reign. An assistant holds a bowl of bark paper. In the king's hand is a horrifyingly elegant tool, a stingray spine, its needle tip sharp as a surgeon's blade, or a dagger of volcanic glass, obsidian, sharper than any modern steel. There is no anesthetic, only ritual focus. He might pull a thorn-studded cord through his tongue, or pierce the soft flesh of his earlobe, or even, in the most extreme acts of piety, his own genitals. The goal was not a quick cut, but a flow, a steady drip of his royal blood onto the white paper. The pain was not an unfortunate side effect, it was the point. The intensity of the suffering measured the depth of his devotion, proving the offering's worth. The blood-soaked paper, now a potent physical prayer, would be placed in a ceramic bowl and set alight. As the black smoke curled upward, it transformed. It became sustenance, it became breath for the gods. This sacred smoke, carrying the very essence of the king's life force, was what fed the deities and kept the cosmic machinery running. It was the price for another sunrise, another season of rain for the crops. This was not an act of desperation, but of profound responsibility. The king's blood, offered in quiet, painful ceremony, was the silent engine that powered their entire civilization. Without it, they believed the sun would stall, the skies would harden, and the world would simply end. So the debt was paid day after day, year after year, in rooms at the top of the world with a stingray spine and a bowl of smoke. This personal covenant was the foundation, but what happened when a personal offering was not enough, when the cosmos demanded a payment of far greater value? But the king's blood was a steady payment, a cosmic subscription fee. There were moments in the Maya calendar, however, when the debt came due in full. When drought cracked the earth, when wars were lost, when the calendar itself turned over a great cycle, the gods demanded more. They demanded the ultimate currency, a life itself. This was human sacrifice, and to dismiss it as mere savagery is to miss its profound, terrifying logic. In their view, they were not taking a life, they were returning one. They were sending a human soul, the most precious vessel of Chaac they possessed, directly back to the gods who had lent it. The most sought-after offerings were children, their purity and innocence making them a flawless gift. And the most demanding deity was Chaac, the rain god, whose temper dictated the fate of every harvest. To appease him, the Maya turned to one of the most haunting natural features of their world, the cenote. These are deep, water-filled sinkholes, limestone collapses that open like portals into the underworld. At the great city of Chichen Itza, one cenote was considered so sacred it was a direct line to Chaac himself. The water was a dark, still green, over 60 feet deep, surrounded by sheer cliffs. The ceremony would have been a somber spectacle. The child, often dressed in fine cotton and adorned with jade beads, symbols of water and life, would be brought to the edge. Priests in elaborate feathered regalia would chant, the sound echoing off the stone walls. Copal incense smoke would drift over the water. Then, in a moment of silent, awful finality, the offering would be thrown into the depths. They did not drown quickly. The fall itself was often fatal, but the act was about the offering reaching Chaac in his watery domain. The archaeological record from this cenote is a chilling confirmation. Dredged from the silt and darkness are not just the skeletons of children and adults, but also exquisite objects of jade, gold, and carved copal, all gifts sent to the god. Each piece of jewelry at the bottom represents a prayer screamed into the void, a desperate bargain for rain. Another context for this ultimate offering was the sacred ball game, Pak. This was far more than a sport. It was a ritual reenactment of cosmic struggle, often representing the myth of the hero twins battling the lords of the underworld. The game was brutal, played with a solid rubber ball that could break bones, and the outcome held divine significance. While not every game ended in sacrifice, historical accounts and carvings suggest that for major ceremonial matches, the captain of the losing team, or sometimes even the entire team, could face ritual execution. His defeat mirrored a cosmic loss, and his death became a powerful offering to restore balance. The method here was often decapitation, a quick and stark severing of the life force. So from the quiet, personal bloodletting of a king to the public, final plunge into a cenote, the Maya operated on a scale of sacrifice we can barely comprehend. It was an economy of the soul where life was the highest denomination, but this raises a darker, more unsettling question. If the gods could be bargained with, could they also be threatened? What happened when the rituals failed, when the rain still did not come? The desperation could turn inward toward rituals that blurred the line between offering and something far more sinister. The line between this world and the next was not a wall, but a veil, and the Maya priesthood knew how to pull it aside. For the holy lords and their priests, the Arkin, communication with the gods was not a matter of faith alone. It was a technical discipline, a dangerous and precise operation into altered states of consciousness. They employed tools to fracture reality and peer into the future, beginning with a practice we might recognize as scrying. In darkened chambers, a priest would fix his gaze upon a polished disk of obsidian volcanic glass so black and reflective it was called a smoking mirror. Or he might stare into a bowl of water, its still surface a liquid gateway. The goal was to enter a trance, to see beyond the physical into the Itz, the sacred fluid that was the essence of creation. In that shimmering darkness or distorted reflection, visions would coalesce, prophecies of war, drought, or fortune would appear. But to truly breach the barrier, to force a conversation, required a more potent catalyst. This is where ritual, pain, and pharmacology merged into a single, overwhelming experience. To amplify their visions, the Arkin consumed powerful entheogens, substances believed to reveal the divine within. They drank balch, a fermented brew made from the bark of the lonchocarpus tree, and honey, which could induce a mild, disorienting intoxication. For more profound journeys, they turned to the seeds of the morning glory flower, known as ololuqui, which contain a compound chemically similar to LSD. These seeds were ground and ingested, launching the priest on a terrifying, sacred voyage where the boundaries of self dissolved and the spirit world became vividly, undeniably real. Imagine the sensory overload, the pounding drums, the thick, sweet smoke of copal incense, the bitter taste of the brew, and the cascading visual fractals as the temple walls began to breathe and shift. In this state, they were prepared for the ultimate communion. The focal point of this communion was the Vision Serpent. This was not a mere symbol, but a living, supernatural conduit summoned through ritual. The ceremony often centered on a royal bloodletting, as the king or a high noble drew their own blood, letting it drip onto strips of bark paper in a ceremonial bowl. The paper was set alight. The smoke did not simply dissipate, it coalesced. From the swirling, blood-infused clouds, the massive, undulating form of the Vision Serpent would materialize, its body woven from smoke and shadow. This serpent was a direct tunnel to the other side, and then the miracle would occur. From the great, gaping maw of the serpent, a figure would emerge, sometimes a deified ancestor, sometimes a god like the great Itzamnoj. This apparition would speak, its voice echoing in the minds of the participants, delivering direct counsel, validating a king's right to rule, or issuing commands for the community. The ruler, bleeding and entranced, was not just hearing a message, he was witnessing its divine source erupt into the mortal realm. His pain and sacrifice had literally opened a door. This ritual was the ultimate source of political and spiritual authority, a public demonstration that the ruler's power was not man-made but God-given, bought with his own essence and witnessed by all. But what of the messages that came through? What happened when the gods, once consulted, demanded action on a scale that shook the very foundations of a city? The answers lie in the calendar, in moments of cosmic crisis that called for ceremonies of terrifying, final transformation. The battlefield was another altar, and victory a sacred harvest. When Maya city-states clashed, it was not merely for land or resources, but for the most precious prize of all, Ciechulul, the animating soul force of a defeated enemy. Capturing this essence was a spiritual necessity. The ultimate symbol of this capture was the taking of trophy heads. After a significant battle, the head of a vanquished rival lord would be severed, not as a mere grisly souvenir, but as a physical vessel containing a portion of his power. These heads were often cleaned, the flesh removed, and the jawbone sometimes wired shut, transforming them into enduring relics. They might be displayed on poles, worn as pendants by victorious kings, or stored in sacred bundles, their captured energy now serving the victor's dynasty. Other body parts, like fingers or bones, were also taken as talismans. This practice turned warfare into a direct transaction of spiritual capital, where the strength of one kingdom literally fed the strength of another. This focus on the body as a canvas for spiritual and social identity began at birth. For the Maya elite, beauty was not passive, it was carved and shaped, often through rituals of excruciating pain that were marks of supreme status. Shortly after birth, an infant's soft skull might be gently bound between two boards, gradually molding the cranium into an elongated, sloping shape that mirrored the sacred maize cob, the very source of life. This was a permanent, visible sign of noble blood. In adolescence came another rite of passage, dental modification. Using a cord and an abrasive powder, a skilled artisan would file the front teeth into sharp points or drill precise holes into the enamel. Into these holes they would cement inlays of glittering jade, hematite, or pyrite. The procedure, performed without modern anesthesia, would have been agonizing, the sound of the drill on tooth enamel a personal horror. Yet the result was a dazzling, costly smile that caught the light and proclaimed one's wealth and willingness to endure pain for divine aesthetics. The body was not just a vessel for the soul, it was a temple to be architecturally refined. And when that temple finally fell, the most perilous journey began. The Maya did not believe in a simple heaven or hell, but in Xibalba, the place of fright. This was a vast, watery underworld of 9 layered houses, each with its own deadly test, from a house of crushing cold to a house of ravenous jaguars. The path there was treacherous, and the soul needed guides and provisions. This is why mortuary rituals were so meticulous. Commoners might be buried simply under the floors of their homes, but nobles and kings were entombed within pyramids, seated in a crouched position as if ready for rebirth. They were surrounded by grave goods, pottery filled with food, jade beads for currency, and symbols of their office. But they were not sent alone. To serve as companions and protectors in Xibalba, Wayab or spirit companions were interred with them. This often meant a sacrificed dog, believed to be able to see spirits and guide the soul across the underworld's rivers. For the highest elites, it could also include sacrificed retainers or wives, sent to continue their service in the afterlife. Their remains have been found in tombs, lying respectfully at the foot of their lord's chamber. Yet even with these preparations, the living feared the dead. A soul that failed its trials in Xibalba, or one that died a violent, unjust death, could become a restless, malevolent force, a ghost that brought sickness and misfortune. To prevent this, rituals of appeasement were constant. Families might make offerings of food and drink at grave sites, or burn incense to nourish the ancestors' spirit. Failing to honor the dead risked inviting their discontent back into the world of the living. So from the shaping of a baby's head to the provisioning of a king's tomb, every stage of existence was wrapped in ritual obligation, a continuous cycle of offering and fear that stretched from the first breath to the final, terrifying steps through the houses of Xibalba. This worldview of constant spiritual commerce raises a final, haunting question. What happened when the bills came due and the entire system began to fail? The rituals we have walked through were not acts of madness, but of profound, terrifying logic. The king's private bloodletting, the stingray spine, and the bowl of smoke was a personal covenant to feed the gods. The public spectacles of human sacrifice, from the cenote's dark waters to the ball court's final play, were payments of the ultimate currency, life itself, to settle a cosmic debt. The hallucinogenic trances and the summoning of the Vision Serpent were desperate attempts to force a dialogue with the divine, to seek guidance in a precarious world. And the meticulous mortuary practices, from skull shaping to tomb companions, were preparations for the soul's most dangerous journey through the 9 houses of Xibalba. From our modern vantage point, these acts seem undeniably brutal, a catalogue of horrors. But within the Maya cosmos, they were something else entirely: sacred duties, the essential maintenance required to keep the sun on its path, the rains falling, and the world from unraveling into chaos. The true horror, then, may not be in the acts themselves, but in the unshakable conviction that they were necessary, that the survival of everything and everyone depended on a king's pain, a child's plunge, or a prisoner's final breath. It forces us to ask, what would we be capable of if we believed, with that same certainty, that our world's order hung by such a thread? Which of these rituals did you find the most difficult to comprehend? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you want to explore more of history's darkest and most compelling chapters, be sure to subscribe.